Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, the Grand Order of Water Rats, Season 8. Wyn Calvin, the Welsh Prince of Laughter, past Prince Rat, Vice President of the Max Miller Appreciation Society, Pantomime Performer and Historian and Dame of Dames, radio, TV and stage legend, and later this year the British Musical Society will be celebrating a lunch for Wyn Calvin and his 75th year in show business. This is an incredible career in success and longevity, and I was lucky to catch Wyn at home later in 2020, aged 95, as we spoke of his time in variety, working with names you won't believe. I have to now keep quiet and sit back myself and listen to the extraordinary and wonderful voice of Wyn Calvin MBE.
Whatever time of day it is with you.
It's early, whatever time we get up, isn't it? Now, Wyn, you once said to Sir Ken Dodd, a dear friend who we dearly miss, we have been very lucky in show business, and he replied to you that you haven't been lucky, you have been blessed. Now,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And in your 75 years this year in show business, do you feel blessed to have had 95 birthdays, over 50 pantomimes, decades of TV, stage shows, radio, parties at the Palace?
Well,
so much.
Very fortunate, very fortunate. And I look back on a career of such interest and variety. And the word variety has always been important to me because of the old theatre days of twice nightly variety.
Yes.
So many theatres throughout the country always had these weeks of variety bills, twice nightly, and the great names on them.
Yes, I mean, we're lucky to get twice monthly these days, aren't we? I mean, this is that just twice nightly would be a blessing. And not only were they twice a day, you would do 2 or 3 theatres in one day, and also pantomimes would go on for 6 months, wouldn't they?
Well, we used to open in January and run into March and April in the dear dead days beyond recall. Now pantomimes open in December and close in January.
Yes, that's very sad. I mean, you established yourself on variety bills around the UK and appearing with Ken Dodd, Shirley Bassey, Morecambe and Wise, and you really did so well in the summer seasons and seaside shows. They were popular for decades, weren't they?
Oh, summer shows were great. If you did a good pantomime run, running into March, April, etc., and then you did a long summer season, then that took most of the year. And it was, yes, it was a very good combination of engagements that you did a long pantomime and a long summer season. Summer seasons were tremendously important to resorts all around the country.
Yes.
And every resort of any size would have a resident summer show. Now there, I think, is only one left in Britain.
Yeah, is that Cromer? I think maybe Cromer, or it has changed dramatically, hasn't it? It really was brilliant. I mean, in Blackpool, you attained top billing at Blackpool Central Pier for 5 consecutive seasons and broke box office records, and 7 seasons in Llandudno.
Yeah, I think I did 8 in Llandudno. Blackpool I did 4. Blackpool then, I'm talking about the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Then there were 8 or 10 big summer shows in Blackpool. Now there's not one. Something changed so dramatically in the last 20 years or so.
Yes, it does. Only 2 years ago, when I had the pleasure of working the Pleasure Beach, doing my own show there at the beach. But just to get people in was so hard, you know, and I'd be very lucky if I touched 100 people in that audience. You know, it's you know, the numbers are not there anymore, are they? And
Well, it all changed in the 80s, I think, when overseas sunshine holidays became more available to the working man in this country,
That's
his
true.
family.
To get away,
And
yeah.
this affected our regional summer shows and our resorts all around the coast.
Yes, I guess all of those seaside towns relied, didn't they, on like pantomimes, and theatres rely on pantomimes every year. The seaside resorts, you know, whether it's Bournemouth, Great Yarmouth, Blackpool, they all relied on everybody in this country to go there and fill the beaches and the theatres, which is why they were thriving. And I guess you're right. It's unless there's a summer season in Benidorm, it's never going to be the same again. You know, it's
Correct. You mentioned Llandudno,
yes,
where I did so many seasons there. I was walking along the promenade one day, and a couple of ladies approaching, recognizing, said in that typically North Wales accent, "Oh, Mr. Calvin, I hope you don't mind us stopping you, but we come to see your show every week, and you know we always sit in the same two seats, and you know when you're on that stage, it's all my sister and I can do to keep from laughing." But that's the North Walian. You do not reveal yourself too quickly.
no.
The South Walian is more spontaneous. The North Walian thinks about it first.
Yes. Your history in variety and radio, television, it just spans back so many amazing decades of working with the greats as well. And this was launched, I believe, in the 1940s. Rarebit. Can you tell me about Rarebit, which you worked?
Welsh Rabbit, I didn't go into that until the 1950s, but that had been a wartime show,
Yes.
a radio program, and then went on to the light program. It had been just Welsh, or in Wales. It went on to the light program,
Okay.
which was very surprising because it was heard by the rest of Britain and proved surprising to the rest of Britain to discover that the Welsh, whom they thought of as singers and preachers, etc., that the Welsh also had a sense of humour and
Yes.
were able to laugh at themselves.
Yes.
The greatest use of the sense of humour.
Okay.
And it created a huge impression across Britain by projecting Wales with humour.
Oh, that's so nice.
Names like Harry Seacombe, Ozzie Morris, etc.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know on that show, I believe you worked with Albert and Les Ward as well. And
Albert and Les Ward, yes, they were great pals. Albert lived with Les. They lived round the corner from us here in Cardiff. And in his latter days, I would see Albert coming back with his two suitcases, a couple of Tesco bags, having been shopping.
Okay.
And Albert always had a gag.
Really?
Always when you meet, he would immediately go into a joke.
Oh, that's nice.
And one day he said, "Oh, Wyn, isn't it terrible? There's this girl here in Cardiff, she's given birth for the 7th time to piglets." I said, "Piglets?" Yes, and the police are still trying to find the swine that's doing it.
That's lovely.
Always had a gag.
That's a nice way to be, isn't it? Just to have that. I do remember seeing Les Ward, I believe, in the Hippodrome in Eastbourne, maybe 20 years ago now when I moved here. And wonderful! Just these wonderful comedy names. Stan Stennett also was on that show. Did you work with Stan?
Stan Stennett, Maudie Edwards, etc.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I know in your neck of the woods, my first summer season win was in 1993. I was 17 years old and I got a job at Barry Island. And it wasn't Butlins then, it was called Majestic. But I know you met your wife Carol, who was a former dancer there. Is that right?
Opened Butlins Barry Island. I was it was 1966.
Yes.
We opened Butlins because I was doing the resident summer show in the camp.
Okay.
And yes, there was a dancer there that I began to fancy greatly. And I still do, because we've been married now for 45 years.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. That's you married in 75, which was the year I was born, actually. But the lovely Carol, she worked at the Moulin Rouge in Paris, did she?
Oh, yes, but she's better now.
I actually took my wife there the year before last, to Moulin Rouge for her 40th. And so what an incredible venue to work, you know. And as a dancer, that must have been lovely for Carol to do.
The world's greatest entertainment centres.
Oh, it was stunning. Just such a wonderful weekend. Yeah, to be at Barry Island, that was a wonderful thing. So you met her there at the beginning of Barry Island when it was open. I worked there, and just after I left, it closed down. So I don't know what that says about both of our acts.
It no longer exists. The theatre that we opened, it no longer exists.
It's all wiped out, isn't it?
This is how swiftly things come and go now.
Yes, yeah.
I feel this greatly with entertainment names. Television makes names very swiftly.
Yes, that's true.
Upon a time, you had to work for years to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Now, television makes a name very swiftly, but it also, in many cases, disappears equally swiftly.
It does, yeah. They wipe them out.
I've often thought that Shakespeare had the modern entertainment scene in mind 400 years ago when he wrote, "Sudden storms are short, small showers last long." And I am grateful to be a small but long-lasting shower.
Oh, you're a monsoon.
Eyes and teeth.
I really adore your voice, you know, your vocal is just incredible for this business. It's perfect. It's so distinctive. But not only that, your quotes are very positive. You know, you've always quoted, we need them more than ever these days, Wyn. You know, you said once, I feel that there are more positively good people in the world than there are negatively bad, which is so positive. And also, it's now commonly held belief that laughter is the best medicine, and it's also the best international language, which is a lovely thing to say as well. It's so true, isn't it?
You very kindly made that reference to my voice.
Yes.
Can I tell you something that originated it?
Oh, yes, please.
In the first 5 years that I was in the business, that's going back to the 1940s.
Okay.
I did 5 years of weekly rep, a different play every week. Now, you explain this to youngsters in drama schools now, and they say, impossible, a different play every week. Yes, we did a different play every week. But we had a producer in one of the long seasons that I did, and I did seasons in Manchester, Oldham, Motherwell in the north, and Torquay in the south, and it was at St. Anne's-on-Sea, and we had a producer who on a Tuesday night, never a Monday night, because a Monday night was always a first night in weekly rep.
Right.
But on a Tuesday night, he would go and stand at the back of the stalls, and if there was a bit of dialogue that he didn't hear, he would yell, "Are you keeping it a secret?" And if there was the danger of that voice coming from the back of the stalls, you made sure that your voice was heard at the back of the circle. but without shouting,
Wow.
with a normal, natural projection of the voice. And that was very valuable early learning
Yes.
as a performer.
Yes, and I've been in dinners and at Buckingham Palace, and you've projected your voice beautifully. And when we were hosting the Water Rats celebration at the palace with Her Majesty the Queen, Prince Philip, and you didn't need a microphone. You do project your voice. You remember that great advice.
I was told beforehand about this wonderful event in the palace, and I was told it's in a large gallery. It's quite a big one.
Yes.
But there's no microphone there. So you'll have to make the speech because they'll hear you.
You got the job.
It was a great privilege. I've always said one of the greatest privileges that a speaker can have is to be able to start his speech with the expression, Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness. It's a good start to a speech.
Oh, it was wonderful. It's wonderful to be a witness.
It amazed and delighted me to realise how much the Queen enjoys a laugh. Because you may remember I said during my chat, in the 150 years history of the Water Rats, no member would have believed that one day we would be received here in these, the most magnificent digs. Now, I knew that would be a laugh from all the pros who were there.
Yeah.
I thought, well, she won't know what digs are, but I was wrong. She did laugh at the suggestion and continued to laugh when I went on to say, with the most splendid landlady.
That was a wonderful comment. It was so good. Got a great laugh, didn't it?
Yes. And it was wonderful to see that she was in touch with knowing about digs and landladies.
Yes. And the Water Rats and Archie Andrews. I did speak to Her Majesty about the educating Archie and Peter Brough, who was a past Water Rat, and she.
Peter Brough was amazing. He was. I worked with Peter, or on bills with Peter.
Okay, in theatre.
But Flanagan referred to him as the greatest radio vent because Peter with Archie Andrews, had huge international impact. But Peter was not really the greatest vent.
No.
Because it was said you could tell when Peter Brough was speaking because only one mouth was moving. Well, Archie Andrews became a great radio character in the days when radio was so important in projecting variety performers.
Yes.
And he would do radio programs in a studio with Archie Andrews, and may sometimes do the whole program in the studio alone without having the dummy with him.
Yes, I know that Tony Hancock didn't like that. I know Tony always wanted Archie to be there because he couldn't work to no character because he believed, the audience.
But Peter Brough was one of the greats, of course.
Oh, he was wonderful, wasn't he?
But he was a great radio performer, and these are the days when radio highlighted variety performers.
Yes, it's certainly where a lot of careers were born, weren't they? I mean, there was like Benny Hill, Bruce Forsyth, a lot of people, Max Bygraves, they came through the radio, Julie Andrews. It was a wonderful platform, I guess, back then.
Did you ever meet Arthur Worsley?
No, sadly I missed Arthur, but I spoke to Ken Dodd a lot about Arthur, and he just, when he reached 60, he just didn't mix, did he? He spent 20 years at home and didn't come out again. But I did get to meet his wife.
He became a recluse in Blackpool.
Yes.
He became a recluse, and I made contact with him several times while I was in Blackpool, but he never wanted to be involved in the world in which he had been so successful.
Oh, he's hugely successful. I did meet his wife Audrey and his son Michael, and we had lunch about 10 years ago in Arthur's house, and it was wonderful to talk to him. And Charlie Brown was still there. They seated him on the couch. So, so I researched Arthur for my book, Wyn, and he was a wonderful character.
Yeah.
And a great television ventriloquist.
One of the most dreadful events, of course, was Sandy Powell. Was so very, very funny, failing to be a good vent.
He's a great cod vent, wasn't he? Brilliant.
Oh, it was great comedy. But he was taking the mick out of being a vent.
It's very skillful. It's like Les Dawson playing the piano badly, and Sandy Powell done that really well with the ventriloquist act.
You mentioned Les Dawson.
Yes.
Now, there was a naturally funny man. He was a great wordsmith, Les. When he was King Rat, he was getting very large. He was becoming obese and was told he had to lose weight. And he appeared one day and said, "I've been slimming. I've managed to lose 7 stone. I got rid of the wife."
He's great, wasn't he?
Typical of Leslie's humour, of course.
Yes, it sounds like you've just worked with all the greats, and they've been lucky enough to work with yourself, Wyn. You were once acclaimed by the stage newspaper as the Laurence Olivier of pantomime dames. Now, what is it you love about pantomime, Wyn, and playing Widow Twankey? You played the mother to Ken Dodd, Roy Hard, Cilla Black, Frank Bruno, Harry Worth, Cannon and Ball, and even Mr. T. So what is your memory of pantomime?
I did 54 pantomimes, and I still don't know what they're all about. Pantomime, I think, is very important in British theatre basis.
Yes.
Because it is a child's first knowledge of live theatre.
So important.
And it stays with most people in this country. It stays with them throughout life. But it's their introduction to live theatre as a child. So I think it is important for the continuation of interest in live entertainment in the theatres.
Definitely, because they get to see music, actors, comedy, slapstick, clowning. They see everything in panto, don't they? And it's something you never forget.
Back to that lovely expression again, variety.
Yes.
The variety of performances and of styles of performance that will be included in one pantomime.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be part of. I've only done 11, so I'm a little bit behind, but I've done more variety shows, I guess, than I have pantomimes. And if a variety show comes up, then I take that, because it's also a wonderful thing to do at Christmas, is to work with other artists, you know. But with Panto, you got the seal approval from theatrical royalty with Sir Ian McKellen when he asked you to coach him to play Widow Twankey. That must have been an incredible experience.
Oh, yes. Now, there's a great character.
Oh, isn't he?
Ian, I think, is one of our most valuable current names in entertainment. A splendid lad and a very fine performer. But he keeps stressing that in his lectures that he's doing all over the country, he keeps stressing that he did a pantomime, talks about it, and refers to the fact that I had given him some guidance on playing the role of Widow Twankey.
Okay.
And he says that the first advice that I gave him that he remembered, when you're playing a dame, in bleak midwinter, keep your padded bra on the radiator overnight.
That's good advice.
And he still tells that story.
Oh, does he?
Books about pantomime.
Oh, that's great. That's a wonderful accolade, isn't it, as well, as along with many. But you've worked with so many comedy duos as well. Mike and Bernie Winters, Cannon and Ball, Powys and Jones, some really great names in double acts. Have you ever been a double act? Have you ever worked with somebody, that you worked with over and over again? Or have you always performed solo?
No, I've always been a solo performer. Well, I don't suppose anybody would be brave enough to work with me.
Oh, I can't forget Morecambe and Wise, of course. I mean, did you do summer seasons with them?
Didn't do summer seasons. I did variety bills with them.
Yes, okay.
The greats we're talking about. I'm going to go back further in maybe beyond your memory of a performer.
Okay.
Vic Oliver.
I've heard of him, yes.
Now, does that name mean anything to you?
I know the name. I don't know the history, but I've heard of Vic Oliver.
Well, he was a huge success during the war. He was Austrian.
Okay.
But had become naturalized American. But settled in this country during the war and was a huge radio success. Vic Oliver. I worked with him in the 60s, and he was Churchill's son-in-law.
Wow.
Winston Churchill hated him.
Really?
Churchill, coming from the upper echelons of the British aristocracy, hated the fact that his daughter was married to what Churchill called a music hall comedian. And Churchill was once asked, if you weren't the great Winston Churchill, who would you like to have been? And he said, Mussolini. He said, Mussolini? He said, yes, he had the guts to shoot his own son-in-law.
That's a strong statement.
He used to tell that story against himself.
It's kind of humorous, isn't it? But quite dark at the same time, and quite sad, really, to not be accepted by your father-in-law. Wow.
It's quite.
And the Prime Minister.
Oh, controversial.
You've worked with many of your local, people that you're close to. Max Boyce. I'm talking about the great Welsh people. Mike Doyle and Max Boyce. They're great comics, aren't they, that come out of Wales? There's some great singers, obviously, but comedy is very strong.
I was Max Boyce's mother twice. Once at Wolverhampton and once here in Cardiff. This was in pantomime, of course.
Yes.
Max is one of the more recent outstanding performers here in Wales.
Okay, yes, I've got an album of Max's, and he sings a lot as well, doesn't he? Not just comedy, but he does do songs and things as well.
Yeah. Uses the voice, which is expected of any Welsh performer anywhere.
Going back to Barry Island in '93, but our resident, he wasn't resident, but he was there every week, and we couldn't wait for him to come back. And I know you've done Panto with Mike Doyle, and he's now a Brother Water Rat. Mike's an incredible performer, isn't he? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Splendid lad. A very, very funny one. A very fine performer. People who have comedy images, underneath they are actors always.
That's true. I never saw myself as an actor, but being a ventriloquist, I was always told by professionals that, no, you are acting because you're reacting to the dummy and you're giving them a script. And I never really knew that about myself, but I become more of an actor. And recently I wrote a piece where I am acting because I'm pretending that my character Arthur Lager is a real life character. I've got dummies made up of him as a child, a teenager, and a mid-40s, and so I'm actually turning myself into an actor by You know, so it's very important to put the acting, singing, comedy, and everything into one performance. It makes it that much special, doesn't it?
Yes, but then performers, or comedy performers, are all actors anyway. When they get up in the morning, they are not comedy. It is something that they become as comedy actors to be a comedian.
Can we talk about the Water Rats? Now, in 1889, that's when the Grand Order of Water Rats began, and 100 years later, you proposed a water rat called Bob Hope, and he was performing at St David's Hall. Is that right? In the 80s?
Yes, he was here in Cardiff, and I was asked, do you want to meet him? And I said, oh, I'd love to. So I was taken to the dressing room after his performance, and that day he had been taken to Barry, which is near Cardiff, to see the house in which his mother was born. Many, many Christmases afterwards, I used to have a card from Bob Hope saying, I remember what you told me, I'm half English and half Welsh. But then I proposed him when I was King Rat. I proposed him to be a member of the Water Rats because he was tremendously keen to become a water rat. When we first met, had pointed to the water rat's emblem in my collar and said, why am I not wearing one of those?
Really? Wow.
Well, Mr. Hope, we would be more than delighted to have you as a member of this order. Next time you're in Britain, let me know, and we will arrange a lot to involve you. And as it happened, some months later, I had a message to say that Bob Hope was going to be in the country again, and there was one Tuesday morning that he would be free if we still were keen on making him a water rat.
Okay.
Oh, yes, please. So I arranged, and I was told, well, on a Tuesday morning, you won't get many rats there for a meeting.
No.
So I arranged also to have a lunch afterwards. We would do the initiation at a lodge in the morning, a special lunch, and we would go to the Park Lane for lunch. And I'd asked the Hilton if they could do a lunch for 20 people. Some people said, you won't get 20 rats on a Tuesday morning. And within 2 days, I had to ring them again and say, can you make it 40 for lunch, please? Then a few days later, can you make it 60 for lunch? There were 100 rats there.
Wow. Well, that's
that making of Bob Hope.
inevitable, isn't it?
He was 88.
Oh, was he really?
He was 88 when we made him the baby rat.
And that was in 1989.
About being 88, he told me of the 4 stages in the aging of a man. He said the first stage is when he can't remember names. And the second stage is when he can't remember the names of people he knows. And the third stage is when he can't remember to zip up after he's finished. And the fourth stage is when he forgets to zip down before he stands. And that was Bob's summary of aging. What a great privilege. What a great privilege.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What a wonderful story. But I mean, to have Bob Hope there, and it's all down to you. So thank you for that, because it's created wonderful history for the Brother Water Rats, hasn't it? And it really does mean so much to us to have that history. But not only the Water Rats, I've had the pleasure of seeing you at so many events before I even become a Water Rat. I've performed for the Variety Club of Great Britain, the British Musical Society, and also...
Yes, bless them. Yeah, the Musical Society is wonderful in maintaining the interest it's a great organization and a very happy organization.
Oh, certainly.
The British Music Hall Society event, I always say it is nostalgia which has a future.
Brilliant. Also, the last British Musical Society event I went to was Sir Ken Dodd's 90th birthday, and that was a wonderful afternoon. And it's always nice to pay tribute to our friends in the business and icons such as Ken Dodd and Roy Hudd. Roy Hudd was there, and and I know they're like brothers to you, weren't they, Wyn? They really were.
I was a dear close pal and had been for 50 years. I think one of the great amusing stories of Roy, he was for a while in Coronation Street, where he played the Undertaker.
Archie, was it?
One morning they were shooting a scene in the Undertaker's premises, and there was a dead body that he was assessing. A dead body played by an actor, of course. And Roy, while they were filming this scene, had the first of those mini heart attacks. And he collapsed in the studio while they were filming, which created chaos in the production box until they saw the corpse get up to help him. Now, it wasn't funny at the time.
No.
But in latter years, Roy used to constantly refer to that event and laugh about it. He was a great laughter maker, Roy.
Yes.
And loved laughing. He was a dear pal.
Roy proposed me into the Water Rats. I worked with him at City Varieties, in Leeds. And then I opened his Fate once, and I've been down to the Eastbourne Day by the Sea.
Yes.
Yeah, they were always wonderful events.
Day by the Sea.
Yes, I'm here in Eastbourne now, waiting for the Hippodrome to open again. So we can have that on again. But it's just such incredible. The last 11 years that I knew Roy, he was so good. It was always about passing it on, paying it forward and being generous, to the younger generation. And I know you were there when Roy and I were part of the Sandy Powell, the blue plaque reveal,
Yes.
That was a wonderful day.
Yeah, Sandy. That was a great character, Sandy Powell. I was his mother once.
Yes. That's your catchphrase, isn't it? I was his mother once.
I look back on the years of pantomime that I did, particularly the years when I played Dame, and the names of those who had been my sons or daughters, amazing.
It's an incredible list, isn't it? Just before we wrap this up, Wyn, I really appreciate your time. I adore you. I'm really in awe of you as a performer and as a person. So thank you so much for being here. But I had a lovely email from you the other day, and it was to welcome me to the Max Miller Appreciation Society, which I've been very, very honoured to be asked to be a patron.
A patron of the society, indeed, and we're delighted to have you as one of our patrons.
Thank you.
I speak as the vice president of the society.
I know that's very important to keep the memories alive of these great performers, isn't it? And Max included. I'm really looking forward to researching a lot more and getting to know Max and the society members coming out at the end of this horrible time that we've had to start creating some more events.
Max Society is based on the memories of Max Miller.
Yes.
But of course, the society continues to encourage and delight in comedy performers much more recently, and current comedy performers. They are delighted to progress with comedy performers from Max right through to today's performers like yourself. This is part of their comedy performers who
Yes.
follow in the steps of Max Miller.
Yes, and I know Roy Hudd did as well, didn't he? Roy portrayed
Yes.
Max Miller wonderfully, and so that's wonderful to pass on those memories. I had an idea earlier today to start writing a piece about Max Miller and about Ken Dodd, Roy Hudd, and take it around schools and start to teach them about music hall. And if that's something that I can do, I'm going to try and push that idea to keep the memory alive in the younger generation, because it's something they don't know about at the moment.
Yes, well, music hall, of course, was Victorian originally, but at about the start of the 20th century, around about 1900, the great important theatre owners, the Moss and Stowe people who owned the big theatres around the country, they decided that they wanted to take some of this music hall type of entertainment, which was popular, into the big theatres, and they created the first of what became twice nightly variety. 8 or 10 acts on one bill, performing twice nightly in their theatres, and being acts, 8 or 10 acts of completely different styles and approaches. Hence the variety word.
It's a wonderful word, and it's a word that I've had a passion for 33 years, and since I was 12. I love the business, I love the Water Rats, I love variety, and I love you, Mr. Wyn Calvin, and lots of love to Carol. Thank you so much for your time, and I really look forward to seeing you at the next event, whichever one that will be, and very soon.
Well, our affectionate greetings and good wishes to you. Pleasure to chat to you.
Lots of love. Thank you so much to Wyn Calvin.
Bless you.
Ice and Teeth.
Thanks to Wyn Calvin, a beautiful human being. He was there when I spent a lot of time with Roy Hudd too. He was there when I spent a lot of time with Roy Hudd in the past too. So I have many fond memories of attending fun events of variety, including blue plaques for notable performers. Just times I'll never forget with Wyn Calvin. There's no social media for Wyn, but you will find him being interviewed on many YouTube clips, so look him up and enjoy more stories from the man himself. Today's quote comes from Sir Ken Dodd. Television is like a monster, eating your gags as fast as you say them. Ice and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Ice and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Water Rat Kevin Dean. Tune into another Ice and Teeth edition when I catch up with radio DJ, pantomime performer and writer, comedian and one half of Simmons and Simmons, who has nothing to do with basketball whatsoever. It's Ben Simmons.